Well, after, I want to say 8 months, roughly 8 months of me working on a project for the truck's tuning. I think that's right. When was Ashley's wedding? Essentially, I had to learn how to tune our diesel truck um, after we lost an engine, towing a tough grade Oregon, my cousin's wedding. Um, we lost an injector, and apparently it's very common. It's a 20-year-old part, high pressure stuff. It needs to be looked at for service. So, with a configuration of DDP 50 horsepower injectors, a custom spec turbo that I am, to my knowledge, the first to have, which is a S364 SXR with a point 0.8 over turbine housing, non wastegated. A Hamilton 178 208 cam, push rods, valve springs. So whatever their 104-pound valve spring and their push rod to match that. With that configuration on the truck, which is a 2005 DFC long block, it's the equivalent of their tow series that I can get in California. And what I did was the tuning for this injector being so quick was not what you would expect when it comes to creating a pulse width table, creating a timing table, stuff like that. Now, diesel, for those of you who don't know, has no ignition spark. It is the only really knock that you're going to have is if the cylinder pressure spike is too quick. In other words, the pilot injection is too close to the main injection, or the pilot injection is too far out ahead of the main injection event. And either way, you're going to create a bump in cylinder pressure, and then that bump is either going to fade too early, or it's going to run into the main injection event, essentially making negative torque on that piston. So what I should clarify that the piston does not have torque; it is moving up and down. It's negative torque in the rod, but negative work on the piston to create negative torque. So effectively, what I have figured out is this is a small injector. Okay, it's a 50 horsepower, 15% over on an otherwise pretty stock system. Right, we've got a fast filter, fast pump. It's going to be a modified CP3 coming this next week. But what I have figured out is the thing that I've been trying to identify for 8 months, and it is the specific OEM quality level of identifying pilot timing and how to pinpoint exactly the offset necessary. And what's funny is it comes back down to rotary split timing. It's so similar to the point of, wow, I totally get this now. This is an offset of this based on this, boom, boom, boom. And suddenly, as of today, the truck probably on average dropped about 200 degrees on EGT. Quieter, picked to efficiency, way more power on tap, like just unbelievable gains. And this is because I found and I broke into what I believe is this golden rule that, let's just say, the tunes that you buy, at least what I've seen, don't even get close. I've purchased 2 professional tuned setups for this truck, and they've been not very good. It's not that they've been bad, it's not that they've been undrivable. They drove, but it was not efficient. And being that we have a diesel, the whole point of this thing is efficiency. We want to tow and get 12 plus miles per gallon. We want to cruising around town and not get less than 18. You know, these are reasonable things to be asking for a truck. So what I did here is I've gone through on HP Tuners, specifically for the 2003 to 2007 model year 5.9s, I have figured out the golden rules of what these engines want. Whether it's the timing curve that I've optimized over hundreds of flashes, whether it's the pilot timing that I've identified as being an ideal situation, and even fuel curves. And like when it comes to how this thing drives on the street, the amount of pedal pressure you're using to get out of the way, and it just drives like a much more modern truck than it is. So yeah, I'm happy to share this stuff. I believe what I'm going to end up doing is selling a version of this particular to each truck as an off-the-shelf tune, and then I'm going to take data logs from you guys. You're going to send me data log, and then I'm going to get things closer based on what you're telling me. So if you have a set of DDP 50 horsepower injectors and a turbo size like this, or you live in high altitude, this might be what I've defined as an ideal street tow balance setup for fuel economy. It is crazy how far off. We'll get to this in a second. What DDP will tell you, and I cannot disagree with this because this is the best way to transfer liability, is they will tell you that when you purchase a set of their injectors, they're going to have a flow sheet, which I'll grab right now. This flow sheet here is for our injectors. And what you do is you'd create breakpoints on your fuel volume. So fuel volume on this mapping goes from here to 0 to 140 mm cubed. That's your fuel volume per shot. And you'll create these breakpoints of these fuel values. And then you're also going to see in your rail pressure here, this is an MPa. This is going to be your idle. It's supposed to be around 25 MPa. And then you've got your cruise, your medium load, your high load, and your all out, or low load, medium, high, however you want to see it. And what this will do is this is going to identify your starting point for an injector that is faster, better designed. In this case, it has these little tiny pilot tip holes on them to almost like if you're running it as a single fuel injection event, so that means no pilot, no post, it would handle it better by itself because it has its own small micro pilot injection on the injector itself. So by doing it that way, instead of having a pilot injection and then a regular injection, they're trying to improve fuel economy because you could turn off the pilot entirely with these injectors. Now, they're saying to run these data points onto a main injection pulse width table, blending them, and then leaving the rest of the mapping stock. Now, while I know this can work, what this ends up doing is the truck ends up being too lean for the most part. So this, compared to a stock truck, is probably, I think it's probably really close to what they would say is 50 horsepower. Okay. Which, if that's exactly what the intent is, they nailed it. If you're trying to get good drivability from this injector, however, the shaping necessary especially at idle, takes a lot of time to figure out. Now, on idle, I aim for between 400 and 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And these values here that they put in, let's see, it says roughly 800 microseconds of injection time at 10 mm3 fuel volume at 25 MPa pressure. Well, their value was supposed to be 800 microseconds, and I landed somewhere closer to 850, right? So take that as you will. It's a little offset. When it's too lean, the truck will lope. It's going to sound terrible. And what ends up happening is, because the pulse width is shorter, it's using more duration of the spark. More duration of the fuel injection to actually make that happen. So the truck ends up running richer, trying to compensate. It's a really funky thing. So with these settings, I've seen upwards of 550 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit. And the difference is, of course, that 50 to, in this case, is actually closer to, we'll say 50 to 70 points. It completely transformed. It went from 550 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit idle to 400 to 450 degrees idle. And the same sort of gradient ended up happening for each breakpoint. Now, one thing you have to understand is the injectors are new, the motor is new, turbo is new, everything's brand new. It's not really what you call broken in. So the compression probably still has time to go up due to the total seal piston rings, due to all the internals, so on and so forth. So you end up finding that the speed in which you want to accelerate the truck, your pedal ratio of what you're getting out of this, and then your total power is going to all be dictated off of the fuel quantities of this table. And so you're going to have to move this around to tailor it to your needs. Now, what I have done, and this may be unique to me, but I think this is how diesel should always be, is I have figured out the pedal mapping that I like on my own driving, which is quite a bit different than stock. And I've also used a boost limit A table to reduce total fueling. And what ends up happening is I can pretty much drive it balls out, and it's going to have a slight black puff and then completely clean. And that's kind of that perfect landing for a street application, in my opinion. Now, if we want to have a little bit more power for towing, which I always advise this if you're in the mountains like I am, that's pretty much what you need. The next approach, which I can start to kind of go through here, this boost limit A table is what I'm referring to when I'm saying limiting fuel. So imagine you're driving an international tow truck that has a Cummins motor just like this, and you're mapping it for a driver who you know is lead-footed. Well, what you could do is you could take this scaler, and these are the maximum fuel limitations for a given boost range and a given RPM, and you can map out exactly where that truck is safe. So let's say I hold this thing at a grade and I get the fuel quantity exactly to the amount to hold a specific EGT. EGT will not go up anymore if you don't add any more fuel, right? If this goes up to its stock limitations, which is a much higher value, this is going to end up making more power, and it'll continue to climb EGTs, and then it'll eventually rest. It'll find a spot. So you could program our boost quantity limiters to make it so even the tow truck driver, wide open throttle, any condition, is only going to have a specific EGT based on your data that you're grabbing for each boost breakpoint. Now, is this the best way of doing it? No. And the reason why I say that is because when you reduce fuel like this, what I call is your time on throttle is generally longer. So if you were to make another 100 horsepower, for instance, you can accelerate, get up your grade, whatever, and then you can coast and be fine. That's going to be more efficient than if you are struggling to get up that hill constantly, and then you finally get there, and then you're still struggling to maintain speed. That means that you're using more fuel regardless. Your time on throttle is longer. And so what's better for efficiency standpoint is actually making more power. If you make more power, you can accelerate, get to your thing, and chill out. And it takes a diligent driver, so I don't recommend this for everyone, but it's definitely something more of the, if you're already a guy who watches your gauges, you know how to climb a hill, you know how to shift, you know how to do certain things, this is one of the things where if you're smart about that, you can tailor this closer to the factory, which will give you pretty much everything all at once, which is why putting bigger injectors on a factory tune that DDP suggests is kind of a little questionable. It will definitely black smoke on shift, definitely black smoke on rolling into throttle, stuff like that. And that's not even using the factory main injection pulse width table. That's using their injection table. So just bear that in mind. This is kind of your final optimization, right? You get everything here, you trim the pulse width table, you add some timing, you do certain things like that. That gets you to the point of making the power, making it clean, making it emissions compliant, the smoke level being essentially non-existent because there's no smoke. I think the truck runs cleaner now than it did stock. And that's just mind-blowing considering how much better the thing makes power. Like right now, I'm at the point of, I just did a pull on the way back from an errand, 950 degree EGT, 32 PSI boost, and it was fast. Like, not quick. We'll say it was quick, okay? Quick, not fast. And the way that it takes off from the line is just brutal. And we're talking a little black puff and then perfectly clean up the tailpipe. So I've almost got that honed in. I can tell it needs a little bit more timing in one spot. And I need to move these tables of boost pressure limiter quantity, I would say halfway between where I have them currently and stock. And that halfway point will probably get this dialed into where it's got so much more power on demand. It's dialed. Anyways, the basis of this video and the whole point of all this stuff is to let you guys know that I am fully committed to tuning these trucks now. So I've been doing rotaries. I've been doing just about everything under the sun, to be honest with you. But this is a new thing for me to tackle. I was very, very, very cautious on how I approach this. And I didn't want to do anything too flashy. This is to the point of, I learned by necessity. This is why I started tuning my Honda stuff, why I started tuning my rotary stuff. I learned that I needed to do this by necessity because the people that I had trusted to do the work were not as capable as I thought they were. And again, guys, just want you to know this. I bought tunes for this truck. I bought a Banks tuner for this truck. Uh, there's so many good and bad things in the market, and I find that generally the best way for me to make a completed, in my opinion, perfect driving package, I just do it myself. So I can start to publish this. I can sell these. Um, if anyone has this year truck and they tow a lot and they have aftermarket stuff they're looking to get, reach out. Um, I'm going to expand into this market, and I really think it's going to be a fun movement forward. And I think the next video is going to be me driving the truck and showing you guys exactly what I mean. It is completely different than stock, completely different than what the other tuners for this platform I think have found. And it's not saying that either of these things are bad. It's just, it's like they missed the mark on the efficiency. They got the power, they got the, maybe they got some of the low smoke situation. But when it came to the efficiency of the truck and the cleanliness of how it runs and the way it sounds and how quiet it is, the truck now is quieter than stock with a cam. It's mind blowing. So when the tuning is right for diesels, it's really, really spectacular. And I just wanted to share this with you guys. It's, to me, I'm over the moon with how much different it is. So I will get into more technical videos on this stuff later on. Hope that helps some of you that have these trucks and they probably don't operate the best at high altitude, real smoky, real slow, bad gas mileage, no power, whatever it is. I've just been taking notes on this thing time and time and time again. And I actually, for those of you who follow my personal stuff, I had taken a family road trip where I was doing a bunch of these tuning things along the way. And I don't think I have it printed here. But I did San Jose, California, down to Bakersfield, across to Quartzsite. Did a bunch of towing. It was like about 3,000 miles of towing in a trip. And on this last trip, I averaged 10.5 miles per gallon. We had snow, we had headwinds, we had, what else was it? We had a bunch of stuff hit us as far as like weather goes, okay? Kind of like a freak storm out of nowhere, to be honest. So 10.5 miles per gallon was about the average that we got for this trip. Now, prior to all the tuning, on the original motor, original turbo, we were up in the realm of 12.5 to 13. And with what I had figured out today, to show you guys how much more power I gained at the same fuel, is it's like we're probably talking like 60 to 80 horsepower gain at the same fuel amount, and it's crystal clear. So what that ends up doing is the tow efficiency should go up a lot. What happened is I put these limitations too low on one of the mappings that we used a lot of mileage on, and it was doing that situation where we're on a hill and we are on throttle, on throttle, on throttle. It's holding it to a certain EGT, let's say 1150. And it'll just hold at 1150, right? And that's perfectly fine. That's great for towing. But the economy of that, you could be wide open throttle, didn't matter. The economy of holding that because you don't have enough power overhead is less than if you make a bunch of power and you can get in it and get out of it. And that's what I focused on for this new reiteration of fueling for this diesel, and it's just been wonderful. I'm stoked. So reach out if you guys have one of these trucks you want tuned. More than happy to jump in, get in there with you, and get you a really, really badass truck. So catch you guys in the next one. Red Green Design coming back. I'm going to start drinking way more water during these videos because I sound parched. I am parched. So, dry California stuff. Catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.